Good evening, everybody. Today is Thursday, August 26, 2021, and after a little bit of a August hiatus, we are back with another edition of Forward Maryland. My name is Bill Woodcock, and
still sitting in for the one and only Jason Booms. I am Steve Hunt. Still glad to be here.
We are speaking to you live from undisclosed locations in the Columbia, Howard County, Maryland area. But normally we kick off our podcast with a little bit of mirth and a little bit of a joke, but at least we like to think it is. But today there's really nothing funny about the start of this podcast because this is a sad day for our country. Of course, everybody knows about the loss of life of 13 of our armed forces in Afghanistan in a bombing at the Kabul airport. There is at least 11 Marines and one Navy medic who were killed. So to start the podcast, we would just like to say, we just want to bless their memories. We want to curse the people who did this, and we're positive that the people who were responsible will pay the ultimate price for this at a time where we have the tactical advantage. And pray for safety for the remainder of the extraction operation of U.S. citizens, Afghan citizens who wish to come to the U.S., and lastly, our 6,000 troops who remain in Kabul to assist with that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to add, there were also service members who were injured, and obviously Afghan citizens, a significant number of deaths and injuries there, including small children, which, again, not a new story with terrorists, but, it is a heinous act. It is a complete act of aggression. And I'm with you, Bill. I hope that, once we're done with the evac and we're, going to the next phase of making sure that Afghanistan doesn't become old Afghanistan, that these individuals, apparently from this ISIS-K, whoever those fools are, I hope they wind up with the justice brought upon them that they truly deserve, because that was just a heinous act. And heart goes out to all of those people hurt, killed, their families, our military community. My dad was military. I grew up a Air Force brat, so certainly touched by anything that goes on with our military men and women. They are the best of the best. And yeah, just
well said.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Well said, my friend. So moving on to the business of the evening or of the day, depending on when you're watching this. Today in Howard County, teachers and staff, actually have been at school for the last couple of days, I should say. It's actually not the first day of school for staff. However, the first day of school for students is next week. And as everybody knows, we are going back to a full reopening of full in-person education. I believe there are still some options for online learning, but full-time school is back. And today, we're certainly not out of the pandemic. We have the Delta variant, which is claiming the most cases in the age group of older teens, where even younger, earlier teens and tweens are also very vulnerable to this variant. And today, so we would like to talk about this for the duration of our fine podcast this evening, as I am fumble-mouthed, which is not my want.
Well, just to throw out there, Bill, you mentioned an excellent point about the Delta variant and who's being affected by it. And, my public service announcement is to those 12 and over, get vaccinated. Howard County, the numbers are through the roof. I've seen the updates from the health department and Dr. Ball. We are leading the state. We continue to. That's excellent. But the one number that is not as strong is that 12 to 18 number. I know I've got two kids in that group. I got we went out and got vaccinated very quickly after word got out that you could, 12 and above, do that. So, if you're watching this and you're either, I don't know what teenager would watch this podcast, but if you're the parents, do it, please, because Delta's the real deal. I was watching CNN this morning. They had Johnny O from Baltimore County. Their spikes are really significant, and you could tell he was definitely concerned about what's going on in Baltimore County. Let's not become that situation where you're really starting to think about how many beds do you actually have before you run out of capacity.
So thank you for that, Steve. And so we are, of course, reopening schools, as you know, and you are currently a Howard County public school system parent. My children have gone through the Howard County public school system, as have I. And so the first topic is the news only hours old that the State Board of Education has mandated masking in public schools throughout the state of Maryland. Up until this point, 18 of the 24 jurisdictions had decided to mandate school masks in school. Jurisdictions as diverse and as Harford County, Montgomery County, Garrett County, and Baltimore City had all decided to mandate masks, yet our ridiculous neighbors to the north, Carroll County, had decided not to mandate masks at all. So Steve, how do you receive the news of this state mandate?
Well, it makes perfect sense. And we just touched on, the vaccination rates of our, teenagers and, preteen, if you throw 12-year-olds in there, not to mention that, if you're under the age of 12, they have not yet, authorized the vaccination. So in essence, that's all of our elementary schools. And quite frankly, in a lot of cases, sixth graders into middle school. So I think it makes sense. It's the science is what it is. So I think that, like to your point, Maryland was doing well in terms of district by district. We were 18, I think, out of 24 that were already putting that in place. So, this just grabs the other 6 and brings them into the fold. So I think it's an excellent idea. I know there are those who have objections, but, we've said it. Delta is the real deal. And if this will help, especially for those who cannot get vaccinated, it should be done.
I couldn't agree more. And what is the only thing that is completely bizarre to me is not so much the state mandate, it's how a local jurisdiction in this state could not mandate masking for its people. And one has to wonder what the enforcement is going to be. I mean, who's going to be going into schools in Westminster or Wycomico County, which tried some sort of very odd baby splitting measure so that masks would not be required but encouraged, or I forget, like kids wouldn't have to wear masks, but teachers did, yada yada. That sort of ridiculousness. This reminds me of when Hogan originally opened up bars and restaurants.
Right.
And those they were supposed to be, 25% capacity, no indoor dining. And I mean, I can remember going up again through Carroll County, because this was an occasion I was driving to Gettysburg, and one could just see, you could either see it in the parking lot or you could see it inside the restaurant, clearly over 25%, clearly people sitting down and eating, clearly people indoors, clearly people not masked, and just having a good old time eating. Right. So one has to imagine, what sort of culpability there is and what sort of sanctions there are for any jurisdiction that or an individual school that doesn't enforce and live by this mandate. The mandate's still a good idea.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, the only thing that government in this case can do is lay out the parameters the best way they can to keep people safe. And this is the same thing of, like you said, the capacities that were put in place in the past, saying that you have to wear masks indoors no matter where you are. We certainly don't want to turn law enforcement into, hall monitors to where they're watching every business, every school, you just can't do it. So I think that the state and the counties that had already done it previously did the best they could to keep people safe. And if a particular county, a particular school, individuals that go to that school make that decision, which is a terrible decision and one that could literally cost you your life in some cases, you can't stop that, unfortunately.
Well, I'm going to answer my own question in a bit when we get to topic 3, insofar as what sort of fool would not be in favor of a mask mandate. And Steve Hunt, I'm going to tell you the answer might surprise you, but it likely will not. So on to issue 2, I believe very much an equal no-brainer, but yet a more controversial issue is the idea of mandatory teacher vaccinations, which in Howard County and Baltimore County, I want to say in Montgomery County, but I'm not sure if that mandate has passed yet. Teachers and staff are required to be vaccinated against COVID-19 or subject to very frequent regular testing. I understand that there are some teachers and teachers groups out there who are resisting doing this, while saying that even though we support the vaccinations and believe that people should be masked, we still feel that vaccination is an individual's choice. But certainly in the light of this week's approval of the Pfizer vaccine by the FDA for full use, employers can now mandate that all of its employees take the vaccine, which would include local school systems.
Yeah.
Steve, is resistance futile, as the board would tell us? Where do you come down as to what teachers should be doing in terms of their vaccination status?
Well, the thing that I will say that makes me comfortable with the way that this has been passed down is, and you said it, perfectly, was you don't have to get vaccinated if you don't want to, but you're subjected to regular testing. So, you've got a choice. Now, anybody that says, I'm not going to get vaccinated, I'm not going to get tested, well, you know what? You get what you get, and you deserve it. So at least in this case, there is an off-ramp to where if for whatever reason you don't want to get vaccinated, then fine, you'll get tested once a week, twice a week, whatever that whatever that business or that county government or school system says you have to get vaccinated to show that you don't have COVID-19. Obviously, that's not foolproof. There have been people who have been asymptomatic who are still carriers, and we don't get into all that science there. But because they put that qualifier in there that allows you to still be subject to some means to show that you were safe walking into a building, as a parent with kids in the school system, as I have said, I'm fine with it. And just a quick aside, some of this is silly to me. Again, growing up military, and I know that's been talked about with the military now having that added to their protocols. You have to get all kinds of vaccinations in the military. I was a kid when we went somewhere, even if it was within the states. I remember we went to the Philippines. I had to get shots twice a week for 6 months just to leave the country and go to the Philippines. And then obviously, you had kids through the system. I mean, you didn't just walk into the front door of your local elementary school without having a little piece of paper with a whole list of shots that got done. So, for people who say, oh, this is such an infringement, I'm like, it's been there forever. Do you have kids? Yes. Did they go to public school? Yes. Then you probably had to get them vaccinated.
I think this falls right back into the bucket of why is this even a thing that we're talking about?
Exactly.
Because as to your point, kids are vaccinated. I know to go to Argentina 15 years ago, I had to get vaccinated against, I think, hepatitis B and C.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you got to get vaccinated. That's all you have to do. Fauci was very appropriate. I think it was about 2 weeks ago when he said, if we had this attitude in this country 50, 60 years ago, we'd still have smallpox. We'd still have polio. People can't imagine how nasty and debilitating and deadly and just plain mean smallpox and polio were. No one wants either.
Right.
That's why they came up with vaccines to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is this vaccine. And it drives me a little bit bonkers because it's not all the Red Hat Battalion who doesn't want to use the vaccine. And I get that there are people who, for moral, for ethical reasons, because of their faith or for health reasons, they can't receive a vaccine. I don't really have so much of a concern with those two groups of people. But for someone to just go, not feeling it, I think you're stupid. Yeah. I think you're really violating and giving up your franchise of being a member of a community, of something bigger than yourself, and you're just a selfish jerk.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Just you're doing something just to make a point that is life-threatening. This isn't, I'm going to do something to make a point, and the worst thing that happens is, you have a different color. I'm going to paint my house a different color to prove a point. This is life and death shit up in here. People need to just get with the program. There are 600,000 plus people who would love to trade places with your I'm not going to get vaccinated because Tucker Carlson told me not to ass. Okay?
Right.
I'm with you, Bill. I just don't get it.
So Steve, it begs the question, and this is what they call in the podcast world the payoff. This payoff may just get us those 3 more subscribers to YouTube to break that coveted 30 mark.
There you go.
So I've said all during tonight's episode, what sort of a fool would be against mask mandates? Well, I have said good things about this person on this podcast. I actually would love to be able to interview this person for this podcast. And I do think I'm going to move in that direction still. But Republican gubernatorial candidate Kelly Schultz has put on her Fonzie hat, her helmet, revved up her dirt bike, and has jumped the shark.
Oh, boy.
So here is a statement that she put out roughly 2 hours ago. I'm going to read it in part. I'm against forcing young children to wear masks to school. I'm against top-down government mandates that take family decisions away from parents and put them in the hands of government bureaucrats. When all this started, we didn't know how at risk kids were. We didn't know how the virus was transmitted. We didn't have a vaccine. Now we know that children are at lower risk of serious illness. We know schools aren't COVID hotspots, and we have not one but 3 very effective mass vaccines. This isn't complicated. If you want to wear a mask, but it should be a personal choice, and we should respect that choice. Students have a right to feel safe in their learning environments, and if that means they want to wear a mask or their parents want them to wear a mask, then it should be their choice. This sounds like a slightly watered down version of Ron DeSantis from Florida, who's out there beating his chest, going, me Tarzan, talking about, parents have the right to determine people if to wear a mask, not a government, although he as a government is determining if people should wear a mask or not.
Right.
And this is a bit of a departure from Governor Hogan, I think, although Governor Hogan has not really come out and spoken on the matter, but he also has not said anything, nor did he do anything to stop or discourage the State Board of Education from taking the action they took today. Yeah. Steve, what do you make of this nonsense?
There's, I tried to be a conspiracy theorist and accuse people of political calculation, but I'm going to accuse Ms. Schultz of political calculation. And maybe, Bill, we're not 3 people away from 30. Maybe we're 2 away, because I'm thinking Ms. Schultz listened to your podcast where you talked about your gubernatorial rankings, and I believe you had Dan Cox rated ahead of her.
That was in the last episode, yes.
And it feels to me like she's trying to stay just close enough to the MAGA crowd that she can hold off a challenge from Mr. Cox, who is full-blown red hat. I'm putting people on the buses on January 6th. It sounds like she's just putting enough out there for them to say, okay, she's okay with us if we have to have her carry our water into the general election in 2022. It just, that's what it feels like to me. That feels like her positioning herself to make sure that she cannot let Dan Cox run off with entire Maryland MAGA world, whoever and however many of those people exist. That's what it sounds like to me.
So my sources in state Republican politics tell me that establishment Republicans, and I don't mean this Howard County Republican troop, or at least not the old guard, the Alan Kittlemans, the Marty Maddens, the Bob Flanagans necessarily, those people. But I mean from the Bates and the Millers, Reed Novotny, who I know we're going to have something special on Sunday's show, and their ilk right. And then plus the crazy people like the Kirby DeLauders from Frederick, the people in Anne Arundel County, Ellen Sauerbrey, the former 2-time gubernatorial nominee, Bob Ehrlich, they all like Dan Cox. And Hogan's coattails, he doesn't have a overcoat or a top coat. He's got a damn Don Johnson waistcoat from 1987. And my boy don't exactly have the figure to wear a Don Johnson waistcoat. And he's moving up towards one of those little, Mexican things that like Martin Short and Chevy Chase and Steve Martin wore in Three Amigos, the things that are cut off by the rib cage.
Mariachi band action.
Yeah, yes, sir. So he's shaking Larry Hogan's getting ready to shake his maracas into the silence, because my boy has no coattails. People who think O'Malley crashed and burned hurt Brown when he ran for governor in his own right in 2014 ain't seen nothing yet after you see this Kelly Schultz campaign, because Hogan's crashing and burning. Personally popular, but not sure anybody's really ready to elect him or anything. Rumors that he's going to run against Chris Van Hollen. I don't believe it. But I don't think he's going to get his chosen candidate, who's Kelly Schultz, into the governor's mansion, especially not with prevarication like this. I agree with you. I do think it's a fairly lame and fairly blatant attempt to cozy up to a certain element of the Republican electorate. And if I know anything about Republicans or Democrats, they will always go for a genuine conservative or genuine liberal, as opposed to the fake, light, or diet variety.
Yeah, I would agree. Yep. But it just feels that way to me, and good luck with that. I think that you're right. That campaign is already in trouble, and she can reach all she wants to, but your history is your history, and you're right. Her association with soon-to-be former Governor Hogan, I think that's just going to blow that up very quickly. So,
yeah. So Ms. Schultz, Secretary Schultz, would love to have you on the show. in the coming months. Going to have to reach out to your people, but I think you're making an error on this one. Steve, the last thing I got for you, and I'm sorry I did not prepare you for this, but being a parent in the school system, rate for me and use whatever system you would like, 1 through 10, A through F, whatever have you, colors, if you will. How good do you feel as a parent sending your kids back into public school in this time?
I feel good with what's going to be happening. Delta obviously is a concern, but the one thing I will give Dr. Martirano, especially, he's worked really hard to take an approach that I think allowed us to be in a position to do this. I think last year, as far as having the fourth quarter in such a way where you could have kids back in school, one of my two went back to school 2 days a week. So it's not this great mystery of, nobody's been in the building for a year and a half. My God, what are we going to see here? So, I'm comfortable there. I will say that because mine are not in elementary school, where kids can't get vaccinated, I'm a little more comfortable there because, there will be more kids who are vaccinated. The mask mandate, I am 100% with. The vaccine mandate or testing, either one, teachers, pick one, just do one. I'm good there. So no, I actually feel good. And some of the things that I've seen lately where they're now going to make outdoor seating available for lunch to allow for a little more distancing. I saw something from the public school system about looking at ventilation systems and the measures they've taken to pump more fresh air in and have the one thing I will say is they put you in a big pile of paper if you printed it out with emails and communications. Our county does a really good job of communicating every step of the way. I have understood what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. And so I think Dr. Martirano's shown great leadership. And I am not concerned about Monday. I feel like it's going to be fine, and we'll see. But I'm not walking around terrified.
And so you would say higher than average is what I'm hearing. And,
yes.
And that sort of attitude and behavior from a parent rubs off onto the children. Yep. If the parents are feeling good about it, the parents are confident, then the kids are going to be confident. The same token, parents are going to go, then the kids are going to be a mess.
Right. Yeah, I would certainly be more concerned if the kids were down in, Florida or Texas where they're shutting down entire school systems because we just talked about Governor DeSantis and not wanting mask mandates, and because of his actions and those taken by locals, they're having all kinds of problems. I don't anticipate Maryland having those problems because we are doing the smart things, the right things. We're following the science. I could be wrong, but I feel good. I feel good about where the county and, quite frankly, the state is overall.
Well, let's hope that sanity and safety both reign across the state of Maryland this school year, and that we do have a happy and healthy and hopefully full school year with kids in school.
Absolutely.
So we thank you for joining us in tonight's podcast program. We come back to you after 3 weeks off. Guess what we have for you, viewers and listeners? We have a 3-day hiatus. So we come back to you on Sunday with a zany political edition featuring a possible rematch in Howard County. A challenger emerges in State District 13. Reed Novotny does the stupid, and you may even be lucky enough to receive our August update of the top 10 gubernatorial candidates in the state of Maryland. So with that, how can you not tune in? You just gotta.
Absolutely, guys. Be there. It's gonna be a blast.
You're a fool if you don't.
That's right. So
for Steve Hunt, my name is Bill Woodcock. You have been watching and or listening to another edition of Forward Maryland. Have a great day, everybody, and a terrific weekend. See you Sunday. Take care.